The world celebrates the Odyssey today. A Greek hero who sails impossible seas, faces legendary monsters, and fights for years to return home. A story that has captivated humanity for centuries, and it is powerful. But there is a journey the Odyssey will never surpass. It is not fiction. It is not mythology. It is real history, documented, lived by an entire people who walked 40 years through the desert, guided by a pillar of fire. No monster from the Odyssey compares to the Red Sea splitting in two. No Greek hero compares to Moses raising his staff. No human Odyssey compares to the journey of a people who had nothing and were guided by the God who has everything. This is the story of the people of Israel in the desert, and it is also yours, because you are also on your way toward a promised land you cannot yet see. 400 years. That is how long Israel's slavery in Egypt lasted. 400 years of chains, forced labor, a life that was not a life. And yet, when God brought them out, many wanted to go back. Not because Egypt was good, but because it was familiar. Because the pain you know feels safer than the freedom you don't yet understand. That is what slavery does. It doesn't just chain the body, it chains the mind. It convinces you that this is all you deserve, that there is nothing better waiting for you outside. How many times have you done that too? Gone back to what was hurting you because at least you knew it. Stayed in what was limiting you because at least you knew how it worked. God brought Israel out of Egypt, but the hardest work wasn't bringing them out of Egypt. It was bringing Egypt out of them. Imagine the scene. Pharaoh's army behind them, the Red Sea ahead, the desert on both sides. There was no way out, none. Everywhere they looked, the situation was the same, impossible. And the people cried out to Moses, "Did you bring us out of Egypt to die here?" Exodus 14:11. We have all asked that question, in moments where God himself seems to have led us into a dead end, where you obeyed, trusted, moved forward, and still ended up trapped. And God said something to Moses that changed everything. Tell the people of Israel to move forward, not wait until I open the sea, not stand still while I work. Move forward, advance toward the water before it opens. The Red Sea did not open so that Israel could watch it. It opened because Israel walked toward it. Sometimes God is waiting for you to take the step before he opens the way. They crossed the sea. They saw the miracle. They sang and celebrated. And 3 days later, they were already complaining. 3 days. That is how long it took faith to turn into doubt when the desert arrived. And that is how we are. We see the hand of God one day, and the next, we already doubt whether he is still there. But the desert was not a mistake of God. It was part of the plan. Deuteronomy 8:2. God led you through the desert these 40 years, to humble you, to test you, to know what was in your heart. The desert is not punishment. It is formation. It is the place where God removes what is excess, where he reveals what is missing, where faith stops being theory and becomes something real. The promised land was not on the other side of the sea. It was on the other side of the desert, and there was no way to get there without crossing it. In the desert, there was no food, no water, nothing, and God provided anyway. Every morning, manna fell from the sky, bread that appeared from nothing, enough for the day, not for the week, not for the month, just for today. Exodus 16:4. Because God doesn't teach you to trust him by giving you everything at once. He teaches you to trust him by giving you enough for today, and tomorrow the same, and the day after too. That frustrates those who want control, but it is perfect for those who are learning to trust. The manna could not be stored. If you tried to save it for the next day, it would rot. Because God designed that dependence on purpose. He wanted his people to return to him every morning, for every day to be a new opportunity to trust. That hasn't changed. Every morning you open your eyes, the manna falls again. Israel made the most costly mistake a believer can make. They reached the border of Canaan. The promised land was right there, in sight. They just had to go in. 12 spies went to scout the land. 10 came back with fear. 2 came back with faith. The 10 said, "We are like grasshoppers in their eyes." Numbers 13:33. And the people listened to them. And that decision cost them 40 additional years in the desert. Not because God was punishing them capriciously, but because a generation that cannot believe what God promised is not ready to live in what God promised. How many times have you been at the border of your promised land and believed the voice of fear instead of the voice of God? The promised land was not lost because of the giants. It was lost because of the complaint, because of the fear, because of believing more in the problem than in the God who had already promised the victory. 40 years in the desert, and in not one of those days was Israel alone. By day, a pillar of cloud guided them. By night, a pillar of fire lit the way. Exodus 13:21. There was never a moment in the desert where God said, "I've come this far, the rest you figure out on your own." Not on the days of complaining, not on the days of rebellion, not on the days when the people worshipped a golden calf while Moses was speaking with God on the mountain. The pillar was still there, because the faithfulness of God does not depend on the faithfulness of man. In your darkest desert, there is a pillar of fire that has not gone out, even if you can't see it, even if you are too tired to look up. He is still guiding, still lighting the way, still there. There is something in this story that cuts deep. Moses didn't enter the promised land either. The man who spoke with God face to face, the one who crossed the Red Sea, the one who received the 10 Commandments, the greatest leader Israel ever knew. He didn't enter because of one moment of disobedience, because he struck the rock instead of speaking to it as God had told him. Numbers 20:12. And that teaches us something we don't want to hear, that the promises of God are for those who walk in obedience. That closeness to God does not make us immune to the consequences of our decisions, but it also teaches us something beautiful, that the story didn't end there, that when Moses couldn't enter, God raised up Joshua, that when one door closes in the desert, God has another person, another path, another moment prepared. The promise never dies. It just changes hands when necessary. Joshua had something the previous generation didn't have. He wasn't stronger. He wasn't smarter. He didn't have more resources or better weapons. He had faith. The same faith that he and Caleb had 40 years before when they said, "We can," while everyone else was saying, "We can't." And God said something to Joshua that has been true for 3,000 years. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or dismayed, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Joshua 1:9. The same words God is saying to you today, because you are the generation of Joshua, not the one that died in the desert because of unbelief, the one that enters what God promised because it chose to believe when it was easier to doubt. The promised land doesn't belong to those who have less fear. It belongs to those who advance in spite of the fear. To enter the promised land, there was one final obstacle, the Jordan River, at flood stage, overflowing, impossible to cross on foot. And God gave Joshua instructions that made no human sense. The priest had to enter the river first, with the Ark of the Covenant before the waters opened. Joshua 3:13. Exactly like the Red Sea. First the step, then the miracle. And when the feet of the priests touched the water, the river stopped. God never opens the way so you can see it from the shore. He opens it when you put your feet in the water. What Jordan do you have in front of you today? What impossible thing stands between you and what God promised? Don't wait for the river to open before you go in. Go in, and as you go in, the river will open. The world celebrates the Odyssey of Ulysses, but the greatest Odyssey in history was not written by a Greek poet. It was lived by a real people, guided by a real God. And it ends not with a hero returning home, but with an entire people entering what was promised to them. You are also on your Odyssey today. Maybe you have been in the desert for years. Maybe you can barely remember what it was like before everything got hard. Maybe you almost don't believe the promised land exists anymore, but it exists, and it has your name on it. You won't lose it because of the giants in it. You could only lose it if you stop believing that God is greater than the giants. The Red Sea opened, the manna fell, the pillar of fire gave light, the Jordan stopped. The same God who did all of that is with you right now. Put your feet in the water, advance toward the impossible, and watch how the river opens. Your promised land is waiting.